Hey there, this is Jason, and it's mid-January in my Zone 10B Southern California orchard. While the majority of my trees are dormant for the winter, this has actually been one of the busiest times of the year for me. I've been busy building, pruning, and planting, all in preparation for our next growing season. So I want to give you a couple updates and show you what's new inside the orchard. First up is the west side of my orchard. You can see I have 1, 2, 3 redwood posts in the ground. The tallest post is about 7 feet tall. The shortest one here is about 6 feet, and that's because the yard gently slopes down towards the back. And then up top, I have a 7-foot 4x4 that spans the top to create a T-trellis. Soon I will be leveling these out and connecting them up at the top, and I'll be planting some fuzzy kiwi down here at the bottom, and I'll be training them up the posts. They'll grow up to the top eventually, and they'll use that trellis system, and the fruit will hang from above. I have 3 Vincent kiwis and a male pollinator to go along with it, and those will be going in the ground very, very soon. So this is project number 1. This is the one that is the least furthest along, but I figured I'd show you anyway, as I'll be featuring that trellis very shortly in an upcoming video. Some people ask me when I prune my trees, and the answer is always. Depending on what it is, I'm constantly pruning. Here, I just actually went through and pruned back quite a few of my dragon fruit. There were some crisscrossing branches, some branches that had a little too much rust or rot in them from this past year. But overall, my trellises are looking pretty healthy. I still have some yellow pelora flowers that are popping up here. Those will open up in about a week. And then I have a Diego's Desert King seedling over here that I am waiting slowly and patiently for. You can see it just started to take on a little bit of red. So those are all positive signs. While the dragon fruit season sort of peaks in the fall, the dragon fruit continue to grow and in some cases continue to flower, although the growth is not nearly as vigorous as during the summer and fall months. One of the most significant changes to the orchard has been cutting back 3 massive avocado trees that I had here back down to about knee or thigh height. And that's because these 3 avocado trees were extremely sun damaged. And this past fall, we had a heat wave where temperatures reached over 100 degrees for about 8 days in a row. And that heat wave, combined with the fact that the trees were not really in good health to start off with, made me decide to cut these back and regraft them after a growing season. So I have 1 tree right here behind me, I have a second one over by my beehive, and then I have a third one that's all the way in the corner that I've cut back to, again, about knee or thigh height. For this one right here, I actually have a little bit of growth coming out of the right and left side, or the east and west side of the tree. So I suspect by this summer, I'll actually have enough growth to potentially graft on some known avocado varieties onto. This is exciting for me because the 5 avocado trees I have in my orchard, including the one in the background that I did not prune back and the one even further behind that, are not known varieties. I don't have any documentation on them from when I moved in. So while I have a guess as to what type of avocado they are, I don't know exactly what they are. So it's exciting for me to be able to hit the reset button on this tree and to graft on some known varieties and some different things that maybe are not as popular or not as readily found at farmers markets or in supermarkets. Again, it's mid-January in the orchard, and Florida Home, one of my early ripening peaches, has already started to flower. This is maybe a week earlier than I have seen in the past. So I don't know if the lack of rain this growing season has anything to do with it flowering earlier, but Florida Home's flowers are always the first ones to open, but early to mid-January is way earlier than I've experienced in the past couple years. All the rest of the trees are dormant, with the exception of a few over here that never went dormant at all. They still have their leaves on them. In fact, this fig right here is one tree that if I was just to take a photo or video of this tree, you would think that it's a fig in July, August, September. It looks green and relatively healthy. Over here along my fence line, all 3 of my apples still have green leaves on them. They have not gone dormant. So again, we have kind of a weird year so far. I don't know if this is a carryover from last year's abnormalities or if this year is off to an odd start, but I have more trees this year that have not gone fully dormant than I've ever had in the past. And again, as I pan around here, you'll see my cherry trees, my mini royal and my royal leaves, still have green leaves on them. And when I go ahead and I give them a tug, they are not easily falling off the tree. They're on there pretty good. So these are all interesting signs. I don't know how this is going to affect the growing season moving forward, but it is an interesting thing to note that might help mark this year as sort of an abnormal year. All right, so I showed you a few things that are happening here in the orchard proper, but I'm actually going to step outside of the orchard and show you where the majority of the work has been going on. That's because a lot of my work has spilled out into the yard. I'm running out of room in my orchard, and also I just want to have my entire yard filled with fruiting bushes, vines, and trees. So I'm going to show you an area that I don't typically feature because most of my videos come from inside the orchard. But as I go out my gate here on the east side, immediately outside is a brand new fall gold raspberry. And this is exciting for me because I grew up with a raspberry bush in the backyard. I have real fond memories of eating raspberries right off the bush during the summer season. And so again, this was another bare root sleeve that I got recently. It's a Dave Wilson raspberry, and it now has its very own home in the ground, and it's fully irrigated. So look at me, I'm doing a great job. All right, so as we pan around, one of the more expensive additions, because these garden beds, they're not cheap, was to plant 6 blueberries. And I put them in raised garden beds because I know they need different types of soil than what the ground will typically provide, so I can control the acidity and the pH level here in these raised beds a little bit better than if it was just straight up in the ground. So I have 1, 2, 3 raspberries over here in this bed, and then mirroring it on the other side are 1, 2, 3 for a total of 6 raspberries over here on the west side. In between, I have some decorative crepe myrtles that again are dormant right now, but I also have a multi-grafted loquat, which will be receiving a few more grafts this spring. I actually have 3 additional scions on the way that I'll be adding to the right-hand side of this tree. This was a seedling, by the way, that has grown and now will be a 4-in-1 loquat. And then flanking that on either side is baby cakes, which is a blackberry variety. So this is exciting. This is the year of the berry. I've got blueberries, I've got blackberries, I've got raspberries, and then I've got 1 additional berry along the fence line. It's behind my oranges. Let's go take a look. So the biggest addition for this year is this 45-foot long grape trellis. I built it using a combination of 2x4s and 4x4s, and I built it this way because instead of using a wire to hold this post back, by connecting them at the top, not only does it look a little bit neater, but it provides support so that the 4x4 posts don't start moving in towards one another when there's weight on the wire. So I have 5 grapevines that I've planted in the ground. These are all bare root Dave Wilson 4-inch sleeves that I got recently, and I still need to look at the tags when I go over these grapes because they are so new. I haven't quite committed them to memory. But down here I have black Manuka. These are all seedless grapes. That was important to me. My kids are not fans of the seeded grapes, so I made sure they were all seedless. This is Crimson right here. In the middle, I have Flame. Again, all seedless. The next one over is Princess. And then the final one is Cannabis. And just for aesthetics and for no real other reason, I will be doing spur, cane, spur, cane, spur pruning. So that really doesn't make a difference much as far as where one goes versus where the other goes, but I did want to have a little bit of symmetry with the way that these grapevines are going to be pruned. I also adopted the grape vineyard irrigation technique here, which is to take a wire at the 2-foot mark and run your flexible 1/2-inch irrigation tube along that wire. And then on the right and left side of each grapevine, I have these little button emitters, and these are 2-gallon per hour button emitters. So 2 of them total, that's 4 gallons per hour per plant. And I am just a few PVC pieces away from connecting all of this up to my irrigation system. Again, these plants are dormant, so I can buy a little bit of extra time here with irrigation. Another thing to note here with the trellis, I did pull it off of the fence a little bit. It's about a foot away from the fence. I realized with my espalier apples, which are just on the other side of the gate, that by hugging the fence, they would not get exposure to sunlight until the sun was directly above. And while that's not a problem with the apples, they still produce. I wanted to make sure that my grapes were getting as much sun as possible, and by pulling them away from the fence by about a foot, they're going to get that much more sun exposure where the sun doesn't have to be directly above in order for it to hit the leaves. So again, these are planted behind my oranges, and so this has been one big massive project that I've been working on. I've been working on cleaning up this row of oranges. This has often been a neglected area of my orchard. I've acknowledged that in some of my videos, and sometimes I just avoid coming over here because I'm embarrassed to show it off. But I have enough space in between the fence and the oranges. It's going to encourage me to keep the citrus pruned so that there's a walkway back behind. But once these things get going and once the vines start growing, I'm not too worried about the trunks that are in the shade. The area above where the leaves are going to grow is going to get full sun exposure from about 11 o'clock until the sun goes behind the trees. So this is a really exciting addition. I did not currently have grapes growing up until this point, so this is going to be brand new for me. This is going to be a learning experience. I don't have any prior grape pruning experience, but I know that there's a lot of great information out there, and I hope to share some of the things that I do right and also some of the things that I really royally screw up in the next couple videos that are coming up. So thank you so much for watching, and let me know if you have any of these varieties growing in your yard. Do you have any success growing them? Let me know in the comments section.